Good morning. I am Steve Keefe. I'm the broker owner of Coldwell Banker Skyridge Realty, serving the mountain communities from Crestline Lake Gregory all the way up to Big Bear. And this morning I've got for you one of the sectors of our market, the town of Twin Peaks. I'm going to give you a market update for the Twin Peaks area. This report compares year over year residential sales activity in the Twin Peaks market, contrasting the 2024 market versus the most recent 12 months, which encompasses half of 2024, and then also building in the first 5 months of the year for 2025. So we go through May, which just wrapped up a day or so ago. The overall mountain market has slowed fairly significantly. However, Twin Peaks has fared slightly better than the neighboring areas. The key performance indicators include, let me get to that graph, 56 homes sold in the past 12 months. So you can see that on the top line versus, or up slightly from 55 in 2024. So it's one of the few market areas where we actually saw more transactions in the last 12 months. Currently, you're looking at 19 year to date in 2025. So that pace has slowed a little bit because the same time period in 2024 was 21. So slight decline, but very close to balanced level of activity. Good news is you've got 5 that are currently under contract, and we're only averaging currently in 2025 3.8. So slightly above. That might give us some positive pressure moving forward. Important number to look at is the number of expired and withdrawn listings. So on this chart, it's the red area. You can see down below in 2024, that number was 28. So these are listings that went on the market that did not sell because they were either priced incorrectly, the representation wasn't up to par, maybe it was an out of area person who wasn't really paying too much attention, and working with the seller to make sure that it was in that price range that it needed to be in order to move. That bumped up to 39 in the last 12 months. So you saw a fairly significant increase on that, underscoring the risk of poor strategy and poor pricing. The sales pace, what we look at, how many homes in this market are selling on a monthly basis, you had a number of 4.6 per month in 2024 versus actually 3.8 is our current number. So if you look at the year-to-date figures, it dropped down 4.6, bumped up to 4.7, and then dropped back down to 3.8. So in the right margin, that odds of selling kind of gives a factor of how strong the market is. And if you put your property on the market, how likely are you to sell the property? 50% is your typical Lake Arrowhead market. In other markets where it's a full-time market, sellers need to sell their homes rather than want to sell their homes. The odds of selling are significantly higher. But traditionally, historically, in our market, it's about 50% of the homes that come on the market actually don't close escrow. And that dropped down to 39% the last 12 months and then 23% year to date. So increased inventory levels. So, I forgot to mention that. You've got 43 active listings. Again, very significant number to be looking at when you jumped from 27 to 43. And that's no surprise. You're hearing about that all over the market, all over the mountain, that you're seeing more and more inventory coming on the market, and that is putting pressure on the sellers. Buyer demand overall has cooled in the market while inventory and failed listings have climbed, signaling a growing disconnect between asking prices that the sellers are trying to get and what the buyers are willing to pay. The usual culprits, as I mentioned, are overpricing, poor presentation, or both. Buyers remain active, but they're choosier than ever. Homes that are priced right and show well are still moving. So make sure that you're working with someone who knows what they're doing, who's plugged into the local market, and understands what it's going to take in order to capitalize on those, being one of those 3.8 sales that are going to happen. So, okay, we'll move on. Actually, the last stat on this page is again showing a combination of the increase in inventory. You're looking at 5.9 months of inventory, which is considered a balanced market in when we evaluate markets. So not really a seller's market or a buyer's market. Typically 6 months is right in the sweet spot. You can see that we've swelled up to double that, 12.6 months. So we're well on our way to it being a strong buyer's market where sellers are going to have to be more aggressive and be flexible in order to make their home be one of the 3.8 that's going to sell when there are 43 other options or more out there in the marketplace. Okay, these two graphs, this compares year to date average days on market. So currently we're at 119 days on market. They've edged up and may continue rising with more inventory and less urgency. Buyers are taking their time. Sellers who quickly respond to the market signals, listen to their agent, are more likely to generate early interest. Those who don't risk extended market times, price cuts, and inevitably the buyer question, why hasn't it sold? What's wrong with it? So you can see the number there is 119. Back in 2024, the number was 99. So we've boosted up fairly significant numbers of days on market. That is likely to probably continue to trend unless we start to see some additional buyer activity. Page 4 and 5 give you the buying patterns. So the homes that did sell during the current period. So this is January through May 31st. So this gives you, I told you before, there were about 3.8 homes that were selling per month. This gives you a general sense of, March we had a pretty good spurt. Everything else has been kind of in a similar range. This gives you the numbers for 2024. So again, fairly moderate in the first half of the year. Obviously, the second half of the year, which is where we're going into, last year we saw better numbers. Hopefully, we will see that trend continue. So, bottom line, buyers are still buying, but they're laser focused on the value and quality. So they're being much more selective about what they're doing. Now I want to kind of give you some basic stats. This compares 2025 to 2024. Again, Twin Peaks market. I told you there were 20 that have sold year to date. 21 sold in 2024 for the same time period. So fairly consistent sales. Median price per square foot currently in 2025, $323.26. So $323 a foot. In 2024, that number was $274. So we saw an increase in dollar per foot. That would indicate slight appreciation in the marketplace. Again, unusual. Most every other market in the mountain communities has seen a decline in the dollar per foot cost. Median sales price, $367,447, which is down significantly. 420 was the number in 2024. So you can see that, again, that doesn't necessarily mean a decline in value. That just means that buyers are pulling the trigger on lower priced homes than they were in 2024. The highest sales price in Twin Peaks was $585. That also was down from $860 in 2024. We've got a couple properties that are listed well above that in the current market. I'm going to show that graph in a minute. There is no basis in that out of Arrowhead Woods area in Twin Peaks for a sale in that range. Lowest sales price, $130, which is up from $110 in 2024. So the bottom end of the market sort of adjusted up a little bit. Despite the fact that the higher price per foot, the overall drop in median sales price suggests smaller homes are discounted, larger homes are skewing the data on that. So lastly, let's see, I want to go forward. Lastly, this is the pricing graph. This shows you the last 6 months of activity on homes that are in the Twin Peaks market. You'll notice up here in the top range on the top right, that the green triangles mean properties for sale. So you can see that there is one listing out there that up in the $900,000 range. If you take a look at our price line, that's going to be well above that market. So um, that seller probably needs to take a look at where they are positioned. I happen to know that property, and it is a nice piece of property. Who knows? I mean, it's a possibility, but it is definitely not priced within the normal range. You'll notice that for this market, for Twin Peaks, most of the sales, most of the activity is happening in this lower square footage range between 1,000 and 2,000 square feet. Not a lot of activity over above that. Few homes, all of which are below the price line. And you'll notice that the two pending sales that are currently out there, those one is slightly above the price line and one is slightly below the price line. So these charts can be generated for you specifically for your property to analyze the current value. Properties that are above the price line, you'll notice there's a lot of green ones. Those are ambitious sellers trying to get as much as they possibly can for their home. Whenever there's a sale above the price line, that means that there's probably something ultimate, very positive about that property. Maybe it's access, maybe it's a garage, maybe it's view, who knows what. Those properties that are below the price line are typically bad access, some other quality, poor condition of the property, whatever. There could be any number of things that would detract from the value. But we find that these price lines are pretty accurate. And when we use it as a baseline and we adjust up or down based on a property's characteristics, we usually get it pretty darn close. So if you'd like to have one of these done for you on your property to have a general understanding rather than just go with what, quote, Zillow says your property is worth, this is going to be a much more accurate representation of where you should be. So that's what I have for you today. If I can provide you any additional information, if you need custom information or you want a copy of this report, I will produce this report on a monthly basis. So watch for it on YouTube and in other places. And I'm happy to help out. Just text me if you want a hard copy sent to you of the report. I'm happy to do that. Or if you'd like a personalized analysis of your particular property, we can do that as well and give you a general idea of kind of where you are in the current marketplace. Have a good one, and sayonara from Twin Peaks, California. Have a good one, guys.